opportunity to start this discussion. Let me try to share my slides.
We can see them. Great. Thank you.
Excellent. I see this talk as an opportunity to discuss. So feel free to continuously interrupt me and ask whatever question that can ignite a further element of discussion. So overcoming the resistances and make your organization truly agile. There is a very strong marketing aspect connected to agility. It is a me-too situation. It is very exciting and very positive for enterprise to say that they are agile, because if they are agile, they belong at a subconscious level to the group of enterprises who are friendly to AI, they are friendly to cybersecurity, friendly to blockchain. And if you do not have this image, if you do not succeed as a corporation to create this impression, then it feels like you lost an opportunity. Of course, it is such a rush to say that the enterprise is agile, that does not mean that they have enough time and resources and willingness, as we are going to discuss in later detail very soon, to do the necessary to become truly agile. But this message, me too, I am agile, so I belong to the club of the companies friendly to AI, cybersecurity, blockchain, sustainability. This is another group. This is important to note. Now, another resistance is the capacity of teams to satisfy certain criteria. And as I said, feel free to interrupt me for any point that we're discussing. The team needs to be self-organizing and cross-functional. But the self-organization element in many cultures, especially in Europe, for example, creates a tremendous change about evaluation and leadership. So usually the employees were used in being evaluated based on their performance, their ability to complete specific tasks, and of course their ability to be collaborative, to integrate with the company culture. But when we're discussing about the success of teams that have also as a task to self-organize, how are they going to be evaluated? What is considered a success? Of course, the completion of a task. But now we have a second layer, not now, since the beginning of agility, we have a second layer of evaluation, which is connected to the capacity of the team to adapt. And if we are discussing about self-adaptation, how leadership is going to be manifested if the hierarchy of a team is more or less flat, and who is the leader, and how they are going, the teams, to reach consensus on a daily basis, and for how many tasks? Because a day can be separated very often in two elements connected to the sprint. So multiple consensus need to be reached. And this is a completely new situation. I'm presenting the slides as questions by purpose for us to have material to discuss. Now, there are many many job descriptions asking for a project manager who has agile capacity, certifications, willingness. Normally, in a classic scenario, we need to question the existence of a project manager. So if you already have a product manager who receives the reports from many sources, but including the product owner, and of course you have the servant leader, the scrum master, then the classic position of project manager, can it be included? What is the level of the perturbation? Can the manager be also a product manager? And should we have only directors and program managers? How an organization who hires an external consultancy to assist it with the transformation towards agility is going to react on this particular task, on the naming, on the branding of the different roles, and is it possible to completely reorganize? Because here we're discussing about a mindset slash methodology that necessitate not only a different approach to the various problems, but to a complete restructuring, at least at the level which is below the top management. It can be done, it can be adapted, it can be accepted, but it is a task, it is work that needs to be made. And now there are the top managers who are receiving the reports. Top management guarantees the success of the company by ensuring the execution of strategies respecting the vision, that of course the bottom line, but now they also need to be used, but now since the beginning of agility, I should repeat, they need to be used to evaluating also the performance and the purity of the following certain methods, the agile methods, depending on which one exactly is adopted by the company. And then there is a trade-off. Sometimes one needs to, especially in the beginning, to accept to shift the focus from the bottom line and the profits and the losses to the methodology itself. So it is a methodology that demands resources and attention and willingness to make certain sacrifices, provided that, of course, in a timely fashion, good results are going to come, because the target, of course, is the profitability of the company. And top managers, are they used to read reports that include the perfume of agility? Or they do not, they are not interested in this, or they are very interested, or they do not understand it? These are key questions. And of course, it cascades to the evaluation of the employees that again need to be assessed based on their effectiveness, but also to their performance and an agile team member, or as a manager who reads agile reports. These are very interesting points and major challenges that, if they can be optimized, it is very positive for the organization. And it is inevitable that we are discussing about the company culture. All these aforementioned trade-offs, the small sacrifices for big successes, as they are perceived, necessitate a change of culture, except if we're discussing for a recent startup that is already very, very agile, and the people have the correct agile mindset. but a company culture which is expressed to some extent by its own vision and the systematic communications to the employees need to have a culture which is compatible with agility. We will have an extreme control culture. This is not something that is it is doable. Of course, the culture cannot be very chaotic. It cannot be only skill-based. It is really a situation that the methodology to some extent imposes a specific cultural adaptation. Otherwise, it is an attempt to be agile and attempting to do something that does not work, as you have all learned, can be very painful financially. And of course, a very strong resistance is the shifting of power with all these modern new role descriptions and the very new way of reporting. Perhaps comfortable positions are becoming suddenly uncomfortable, and opportunities are created, but the opportunities perhaps they appear as fluid as the length of a sprint. Another resistance, and we have all faced it during the quarantine period, is how do we do agile work, how do we operate agile teams when the people are remotely, and what does it matter? If we take the case of the Scrum, the instructions and the rules are very few, but they are very, very strict. So the different pieces of information, the artifacts must be available to all the team members. How do we do this? We'll make it obligatory, but in order to guarantee the maximum amount of common sharing of knowledge, an idea is to have a systematic but scheduled networking, which is a technique that it is, of course, used internally in many companies in the context of the coffee breaks, etc., or the tea breaks, depending on which part of the world you are. But if you are working remotely, then you should not be able to, if you are an employee, to miss this opportunity. And the software, because you have many now pieces of software that are oriented towards project management, and of course they are adapted to the specific also methodology. They should not be treated as a tool. This is a phenomenon that has been observed. I'm sorry, they should not be treated as nothing more than a tool, because it has been observed that the farther we are from the team members, the more we value the technological opportunities that we have at our disposal. So if we put some input inside the boxes of a Jira piece of software, then it should not mean that this is what matters the most. We should maintain and respect that one of the highest values, highest priorities is to interact with the individuals and not with the pieces of software. Mindy, how does it go so far? You don't have any questions yet.
Good. Sorry. We're doing good so far.
We're all connected. Yes.
Yes, we're all connected. Yeah.
You're very silent, but we should have questions at any time.
If any questions show up, I will let you know.
All right, I'm presenting the slides in a speedy fashion for us to have the maximum amount of time for the Q&A.
Yep, you are doing great.
human resources or a new agile foundation. What happens with the human resources? They need to make at least an initial filtering and then an internal filtering of the candidates, of the employees. But of course, are they scheduled to receive foundational courses on the different agile methods? Are we speaking the same language? Is it English, or that we speak all, or there is a barrier in the communication? Can the value be secured based on the available communication tools between employees, candidates, and the human resources? And certain job announcements could be audited more, things that are not perfectly doable, combinations of project management methodologies that cannot be combined, or the announcements of roles that do not have the correct hat. Of course, there are many companies that that already did this step. They offer some training to the human resources, so they can be of assistance, of maximum assistance, and not create confusion. But if you don't do this, then it is a challenge, it is a problem, it is something that can be solved, and it should be solved. And the perception of the agile, both skills and mindset, as a soft skill is something that needs particular attention. And the weighting of agility compared to hard technical skills, how far the value of being agile can it go compared to hard skills, or the companies decide to treat the agile certifications and skills in general as hard. These are important points, and the resistance has its root in the unwillingness to take foundation training, and of course to adapt. Now, there are very few companies that can succeed with a very pure model. The need to answer the weaknesses of the adoption of one methodology by combining 2 and 3 brought us to many combinations of Agile and Kanban, and very special combinations of Kanban, and then Agile and Lean, and companies with their specific rules, and then of course with a very dangerous bending of the rules that stop enterprises to be purely agile, which is of course a very well-known danger. That if the very few strict rules are not respected, then there is an issue of actually not doing something which is as it should be, and of course eventually you do not receive the rewards that you were expecting to receive. And then we have the scaled agile attempts that can work very well, but they are much more fresh and much more new than the classic agile methodologies. And who is going to be responsible for all this? Is going to be the project management office that is going to adapt periodically the methodologies, and of course guaranteeing to the maximum of its capacity that they are understood and respected, or we're going to have internally change managers, or we're going to hire external consultants. And what is the effect to the psychology of the appearance of external change managers and consultants? There are even external agile coaches that are often hired, and the effect, of course, is connected to the perturbation. If there is an organizational change and a completely different way of having the teams working, then If it is done by an external element, then the psychological perturbation inside the limits of the company is not as pronounced. But anyone who is attempting change, positive change, of course, is to have the authority to do it. Few things are more frequent than bending of the rules, we can call them rules, by the employees, and then using the 360 evaluation reality as a way to maintain a positive status for themselves. How the change is going to bring the maximum positive financial and technical points.
Georgios,
Yes,
we do have a question.
yes.
It's by David. Says, should the HR be trained to work on changing job description of the employees who are moving to the Agile team? David, you can actually just ask your question outright if you would like.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm just wondering. Hi, I'm just wondering if when you say training for HR, if that aspect of changing role competence is part of the training. Because if you're, let's say, you're a project manager and you're now moving to a Scrum Master, maybe the job competence should be different.
Yes, this is a valid problematic, and yes, the training needs to be there, and they need to receive any new skills necessary. So what we announce, it should be followed by what we need. So if a project manager is becoming a Scrum Master, of course, in the job announcement, it should be mentioned clearly, and everybody needs to have the necessary training to advertise the role and then to work on the role.
Thank you.
Why do all this? Why if you have already a successful company? Because if you don't have a successful company, any opportunity, any adaptation that can eventually bring you positive results is something that you should in principle attempt without hesitation. But if you are already successful, why should you do it? You should do it for many reasons, but one of the most obvious is that the new emerging technologies like artificial intelligence emerging and perhaps at the stage of some hints of maturity, and the blockchain are delivering in chunks, in pieces. So we have a situation that the technology now has some characteristics of a sprint, without, of course, discussing about the absolute duration of the sprint, but the output, it comes like the output of a sprint, and the output changes all the time, it improves. But you know that it is a kind of a cycle that leads you to hopefully a better output, but you know that you are going to receive a new kind of output with some at least different characteristics very soon. And sustainability, that it is not only about the environment, of course, it is also connected to how the employees are working and they are having a positive life in the work environment, is connected to the sprint, because the sprint is supposed to be perpetual. So we're moving in a more abstract territory, that both the technologies and an important value like being sustainable in business includes to some extent some of the characteristics of the agile sprint. And I'm referring to the sprint because it is one of the most tangible changes in how everything works, and it is not very technical. It is that we're trying our best, working in a specific manner, communicating in a specific manner inside of a team to bring the best possible result, hopefully a functional result, in a period of time, 15 days, more, a little bit more. But this psychology and this also intellectual and physical adaptation to sprinting is also manifesting itself in technologies. So we have a full compatibility here between methodologies, how we receive the output of technologies, that always changing in characteristics output of technologies, and how certain values that are very important for humanity, like sustainability in the work environment specifically, are all compatible and aligned. This is, I think, a very, very important point that should give all the confidence and all the motivation to make the maximum effort to overcome all the resistances that we mentioned in the title of this discussion. And thank you, and let's start the very interesting Q&A.
Feel free to unmute and ask your questions. Does anybody else have any more questions? You feel free to unmute, ask questions, or talk about anything that you would like to talk about.
Who will be first?
Okay, so I'll ask another question.
Go right ahead.
How would you address transformation to be successful on all levels of the organization? And I'm asking because an attempt was done in a certain organization, and the success was at let's say until mid-level management, but not upper management. So how would you address success transformation that it will be succeeded at all levels of the organization?
This is perhaps the biggest challenge, but we start from the top. We start from the people who are receiving the top level of the reports, and then we'll go downwards. And I will make it as formal as possible to communicate the message to all the stakeholders that a change is attempted and it is going to succeed and everything is going to be very positive for the company. So I circulate in a Steve Jobs style, an email to everyone just to say that we are attempting this and it's going to be very good, very positive. Yes, it is very easy to make a change in a development team. Easy. It is easier. Perhaps I shouldn't say very easy. But then how the individuals who are responsible for other individuals, actually for the work output, are going to adapt and react to this change. I guess this is the important point. Start from the top. Be loud, make it official, and do not forget to repeat the message frequently.
Thank you.